Philly Startup Leaders presents Founder Factory 2015. This program was recorded January 13th, 2015 at The Hub at Cirrus Center in Philadelphia. This year's Founder Factory is brought to you by these sponsors: Broadpath, the Innovation Center at 3401, Startup PHL, and Morgan Lewis. In video number 8, Tim Raybould, the CEO of Ticketleap, discusses why SEO was the right traction channel for Ticketleap and others were not.
How's everybody doing? That is a picture of Founder Factory 2009. It's been going on for a while, this event. I think I have been to every single one of them. I don't know if anybody else can say that. Maybe Chris Sarah? Yeah, okay, Chris Sarah. All right, so there's a few select group of people that can say that. When did it start? All right, either 08 or 09, not 09, but probably 08. But anyway, this is Founder Factory 08. Gloria Bell took that photo, according to Flickr. She's a longtime friend of PSL. Chris Sarah, everybody, is the owner and operator of this building that we are in right now, this beautiful building, Cirrus Center. So Chris is a man of many talents. This is what Ticketleap looks like. This is the event page. If you set up an event on Ticketleap, for those of you that don't know, if you're having an event, you can use Ticketleap to sell tickets to that event. That's what we do. We pride ourselves in this design, especially how it looks on the mobile phone there. If you click that Get Tickets button, this is really the core of what we do. We are really good at selling barcodes on the internet. And these are a series of admission tickets for this particular event. And this is our business model, which is very simple. The event organizer keeps the face value, and we keep the service fee, and that's how we make money. Pretty simple, right? What I'm going to talk about today is three separate things. I'm going to talk about three just separate thoughts I have on traction in general. I'm going to talk about three traction channels that have worked for Ticketleap, and three traction channels that did not work, that we tried, but that did not work. So the first thought I had on traction was that it starts with product. And in particular for a startup by definition is trying to achieve massive growth. And also, almost by definition, as Michael said, they're on a very limited budget. So in order to achieve massive growth on a limited budget, you have to be selling a different product. Starts with a product, right? You're not going to be able to get that level of traction with a commoditized product. So it starts there, and I think it's an important fact when you're talking about traction. And traction, and Gabe's book, the way he talks about this, your early tests of your traction channels can help you inform whether or not people want what you're making, or whether or not your product is up to snuff. So they work together. The second thought I had on traction was the book that I see circulating around here that is the theme of today's event is a really good book. I've read it, and we formed a little book club at Ticketleap, and we all read it together, and we did the bullseye framework, and it was really, like, actually in practice, it worked, and we felt good about the outcome, and so read it and apply it. It's good. And the third thought I had about traction that I'll go a little bit more deep into is this statement up here. So not all growth that seems impressive is impressive. This is not meant to demean the growth of anybody's startup, including Ticketleap's. It's just meant to bring up an illustration that I think will prove out a later point. The real point is how you should be looking at your business from a traction standpoint. So Ticketleap has processed $300 million in ticket sales since 2007. $100 million of that has come just in the past 12 months. That sounds really impressive, right? Yeah, sounds like a lot. A third of the lifetime 7-year ticket sales has come in the last 12 months. And it is impressive, but there are a couple forms of impressive growth, and I want to talk about those. First, I want to talk about growth that is, for the sake of drama, not impressive. This is, apologies for the clip art on this one, but growth that is not impressive. So once you fire up a traction channel, in this analogy, you're turning on a faucet, right? And you're trying to fill up this bucket of water. And this bucket is going to fill up with water eventually, as long as you keep this faucet open. What the impressive thing here is turning on the faucet. That's a really hard thing to do, is to get some customers flowing in. That's impressive. Also impressive is to make sure, is to limit the amount that's leaking out the bottom. That's churn. That's also impressive. What's not impressive, what drives a lot of growth for early companies, especially for early companies, because it's just how math works. What's not impressive is leaving the faucet on. I mean, growth will happen. It'll take 7 or 8 years for that bucket to fill up with water, but it's going to do so. And when you look at a cumulative growth curve of your startup, it's going to seem like things are all good, when in fact they may not be good. So there's 2 ways to have impressive growth. One is to make an existing channel work better, make more water come out of the faucet. We did a lot of that this past year at Ticketleap. We optimized a lot of our main SEO, or our main traction channel, which happens to be SEO, which I'll talk about in a second. And the other impressive thing is to add an additional traction channel. That's also something that's going to have your growth increasing at a growing rate. So if you're not doing that, it'll plateau eventually. This is a handy formula that I sometimes use, just handy to know. If you have spun up a new traction channel and is adding a certain amount of dollars per whatever time frame, let's just say year, you can figure out the maturity of that traction channel by just knowing how much you're adding and what percentage churns over that period of time. So I'll illustrate it with an example. If you have a traction channel that has $100,000 of new business every year, and you retain 80% of that as long as, if you keep doing that, you keep every year, go out there and you re-win $100,000 of customers through that traction channel, that will eventually plateau at $500,000. It'll take a long time for that to happen. I didn't feel like graphing it out. I was in the calculator saying 395, 416 is going to take a while. Okay, so year 8 to get to 416. But this looks like impressive growth, but in fact it's just one traction channel that got turned on originally and is running, and is still running. So what's the point? Don't rest on your laurels on growth. No, that's not the point. You already knew not to do that. The point is, look at your business this way. This way, meaning take a look at by traction channel if you can. The total is the most important number, but if you can get it by traction channel, it's even better. But how much new business are you adding by channel every, pick a time frame. In this case, I put month. If your business has seasonality, then group the months together to where the seasonality goes away. So in Ticketleap's case, annual is a better view at this because there is seasonality in events. So how much business are we adding every year, and how much are we getting it? And if we add the same number of business every year, year after year, we'll be growing, but that's not going to last forever. So we have to figure out how to add how to spin up new traction channels. Gabe talks about this in the book a lot, how with DuckDuckGo, he has gone from one traction channel to the next and the next, and they sort of tap out. All right, so those are my 3 thoughts, general thoughts on traction. Here's 3 traction channels that worked for Ticketleap. Your miles will vary is the thing I have up here. This is very dependent on your situation. That's why there are 19 channels, and usually only 1 or 2 works for you. So this is our big one. SEO can work in a lot of different ways. SEO can work along with a content strategy. SEO can work in a long tail situation with microsites. In our case, we've tried a couple of those things. In our case, this is not what the SEO that I'm talking about. This is like non-long tail SEO. And 2 things have to come together for this to happen. So it just happens to be that there's this magic box on the internet that people with an intention to buy something go to this box and they type in what they intend to buy. And that's really good for us because a lot of people, 2 things have to come together for this to work. One is that enough people have to have the intention of buying your thing. So in the case of ticketing software, a lot of people have that intention. Thousands of people every month go to Google and they type in sell tickets online. And we rank number 1 or number 2 for that. StubHub is the other one, depending on the day. And we're fine with that because StubHub is kind of in the secondary market separate to us. But we rank very high for this particular keyword search, or this keyword term. And for that reason, we get a lot of customers. And it's a consistent flow. I invented a metric down here just to give you a sense of, across these 3 channels that have worked, how much we get from this. This is 30 handfuls of customers. I'm not going to give actual customer data, but 30 handfuls. The 4 handfuls is AdWords. We also do spend up to what we can spend in AdWords. I'll explain that in a second. So we get a little bit of AdWords too. But from search engines, we get 34 handfuls of customers every month. And it's our biggest channel and has been since the founding of the company, 07. The other thing that has to come together for for this to work is that not only do you have to have people that are searching for your thing, but you have to appear high on the list when the results come back. The way we do this is we have a pretty unfair advantage. We happen to have a lot of pages on the internet that point back to Ticketleap. We have that because we have a lot of customers that have events. Sierra Nevada is one of our customers. And they have this button on the bottom of their page that says buy tickets. There it is, larger, in case you can't see the small one. And when people click that button, it goes to Ticketleap. Google sees this as PageRank 4 site, 3 or 4, can't remember, but a very respected site in the eyes of Google, and they're pointing to Ticketleap for something. And because of that, we're able to rise high in the rankings. We also have our own pages that we put keywords that we're testing, and also our bread and butter, sell tickets online, those kind of keywords. But appearing high on the list is of course, something that also helps us have this be a productive channel. And this is one of those ones that, find your unfair advantage, I guess, is the takeaway here, because chances are you probably don't have thousands of pages on the internet you have control over the links for. But that's part of this. Find your unfair advantage. The second one that's really worked is word of mouth, virality, whatever you want to call it. Events have some inherent virality to them. So when one customer chooses to use Ticketleap, so in this case, PSL, there's hundreds of you that are now exposed to Ticketleap. And this is sort of a blending of the public speaking traction channel, but even if I wasn't here talking, a couple hundred people here would have bought a ticket on Ticketleap and at least seen it in some passing moment. And when they go to throw an event later, the small number of you that will end up doing that, you'll know about Ticketleap. Whether you'll pick it, I don't know, but you'll know about Ticketleap. So this is inherent virality, works for us as well. 20 handfuls, it's a good channel. The other component of this channel, it's hard to separate these two in the measurement, so I'm not sure exactly which is how much is what. But the other part of this is that we build a product that people like. It's also a key thing, and ticket sellers that like our product recommend our product to their friends that also sell tickets to events. Third one that has worked. This right now is bringing in a handful, so it's a small number. This is content marketing. This is a site we have called Events University. It's a link from our homepage if you want to check it out. And this is content that is meant to answer the question, I don't know what I'm doing when I'm throwing an event. Ticketleap, please help me out. So this is our answer to that question. Right now, like I said, it gets a handful of customers for us per month. I think there's potential for this to be more. What we're experimenting with this in particular, and a goal for 2015, is to take this not only from a content marketing channel, but to a community building channel. What we want out of Events University is for it to be the place on the internet where you go to talk about creating an event. And a lot of you probably don't have that particular desire, but there's thousands of people that do think about these things and want to go someplace and talk to other people about creating events. We want Events University to be that place, and to the extent that we can foster a community around this content site, that would be an entirely separate traction channel that I hope is another big faucet in our bucket. All right, I'm almost done. We can do Q&A. We've raised $8 million over the life of Ticketleap, and we've spent a lot of that on finding and making better the channels that we just went over, the productive channels. We also spent a lot of money, a lot of that $8 million on channels, and trying to spin up new channels and it failing and not working for those channels. So just a couple highlights of ones that didn't work and why. So sales is the first one. One of the keywords here is hasn't. I'm not saying sales doesn't work for Ticketleap for selling tickets to events. Sales very well may be a future traction channel, but it has not worked in the past, and it has not worked in the ways that we have attempted it. I was trying to pull out like the key reason why each of these things hasn't worked. I think for us, the key reason was because we had this DIY product. That means that anybody can go into Ticketleap right now, set up an event, post and sell tickets. That's the core of what we do. We get 34 handfuls a month from people that are coming from Google, so we don't want to mess that up. So we were trying to sell a DIY product to customers that were not in a DIY spirit, trying to sell it to larger events. So that mismatch ended up, I think, was the core reason why that channel didn't work. PR hasn't worked. PR has worked for a couple people so far today. Apu said PR has worked well for them. And and Bob also in a different flavor said PR has worked for them. PR hasn't really worked for us. We've used a couple different firms in the past. We've spent anywhere from pay-as-you-go PR all the way up to $15,000 a month PR and a couple stops in between. So we've tried the gamut over the course of, been around for a while, so we've had a lot of time to experiment on these things. There have been instances where we've gotten coverage, and the efforts that have gone into PR have come out the other end with articles, and we got some decent coverage in 2014 from a push that we did. But what didn't work about it was the coverage didn't really materialize into sales. It didn't materialize into customers of Ticketleap. I think the core reason there was the story that we had wasn't really resonating with people. It's a longer topic, but yeah, that's the second thing. Third thing is AdWords hasn't really worked. I had AdWords on the earlier slide that we do get 4 handfuls of customers a month from them, from that channel. But it sure seems like it should be more, and we've tried a lot. We've spent a lot of time and effort on it trying to be more. The reason that doesn't work for us is, Bob's quoted a $65 a click for business intelligence keyword. It's also very expensive to buy keywords for sell tickets online and those types of things. It's expensive because it's competitive. Bob's dealing with Oracle in that case. We have other players in the ticketing space, Ticketmaster, et cetera, that are bidding on keywords, and it's rather expensive. So because it is so competitive, we can only spend up to a certain amount of money per month, and then once we spend $1 more than that, it becomes ROI unfavorable, and we might as well not spend it. So it'd be nice if this were a channel we could spend much more money into, but it hasn't worked in our various attempts to try to get it to work. And that's pretty much it. In summary, traction's everything. Work together with the product and look at your business in a cohort way. You might be able to go to co-hort.com or whatever microsite was pimped out earlier to learn more about cohort analysis. But do that. Find the ones that work for you, obviously, and have high standards. What we're trying to do here. This is PSL, right? This is Philly Startup Leaders. Startup is the middle name. Is our middle name, and what startup means is that we are trying to grow quite dramatically. Lots of other businesses don't have that as their goal, and that's perfectly fine. But that's what a startup is trying to do. It's trying to grow dramatically. And if a channel is somewhat productive, but is not going to be the one that takes you to that growth that you're looking for, be cognizant of that, and don't be afraid to adjust your efforts elsewhere. That is it.
Yes. You said it's not always going to work for you to be okay with axing it. How do you know that you've given it a fair chance?
Right. Question is, what I just said was, if it's not going to work for you, axe it. How do you know that you give it enough time? That's a really good question. I feel like there's a lot of competing advice on that topic. A lot of people will say, stick-to-itiveness and perseverance is one of the key traits that an entrepreneur can have. And in the same breath, or the same, scroll down the page a little more to the next article, and you'll read something that says something like, fail fast, something like that. And how do you reconcile those two things? I think the skill of being able to determine which thing is going to fail and which thing deserves more perseverance and more poking and prodding. That is one of the skills that an entrepreneur is very valuable to an entrepreneur, and that it is honed over time. So it's very situational, and it's I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to make a gut call on whether this may take off, or if you decided that it just won't. And there's some cases that fit into what I said earlier, that you could predict what it's going to do, and you don't have to guess. You know that it's going to add a certain number of customers a month. And the point earlier was just that to not be satisfied with that low number of customers. If have a high bar, because what you're trying to do is grow fast. Anybody else? Yes.
Have you got any plans for trying to market mobile apps through events? And if so, could you talk about them? Is that an example?
Yeah. Do we have any customers trying to market mobile apps through events? So using an events as a traction channel, basically. Yep. Yeah, I'm not trying to think of mobile apps specifically, but certainly we have a lot of customers that use events as marketing. In fact, that was our primary focus over the past year and a half is to build Ticketleap with a particular customer in mind, and that customer is someone that is not using an event as their business, but they're using an event to as marketing, to bring awareness to their business. So a lot of our customers do this, and I think it's incredibly effective from the anecdotal position that that we sit in. We also did a little bit of this ourselves, and we wrote a little bit about it. So I'll see if I can remember these numbers. We threw an event. It was a small event, 20-person event. It was a flower potluck in Philadelphia at our office. It was supposed to be outside. It rained that day. The Schuylkill River overflowed the train tracks next to it. It was like a torrential downpour day. So we had to move it inside. 9 of the 20 people showed up in the rain. And flower potluck means everybody brought a bunch of flowers and they exchanged flowers and everybody walked away with a bouquet. So it was a fun event. People enjoyed it. And we tallied up the stats afterwards. And we got 9 people there. So 9 people had an in-person connection with Ticketleap. Probably, if you're going to lay out the marketing metrics of page views and clicks and likes, in-person experience, that trumps all of those. So we had 9 people that they're having an in-person experience with Ticketleap. We had something on the order of 20 people that shared some photo on Instagram or on Twitter about the event that mentioned Ticketleap. And we had something like 150 people like, comment, retweet something, those 20 shares. So we had 9 in-person experiences, 20 direct shares, 150 engagements from this little 9-person flower potluck event, and that trumps in a pretty big way when we write a blog post, the level of engagement we get on a blog post, just for example. So one small event, easily did better than all of our blog posts that year. Crowdfunding. If there's an event, if it's centered around an event, then sure, but not branching off and doing that separately. Tilt's a good site for that. Yeah, if you're getting together and the essential purpose of you pulling money together is to have an event, then I would encourage you to use Ticketleap. But yeah, it's probably out of the wheelhouse for pulling together money for other things. Yeah. How do we integrate what? How do we integrate the different traction channels that we do? What do you mean by integrate? Yeah, so how do we wrap our traction channels together? Basically, yeah. One of our so events as a traction channel, which is the one I just sort of alluded to with the flower potluck. We do one of those a month. We do an event per month, and the purpose of that is to fuel our content marketing, basically. The Events University pieces are largely, the learnings that we have there are largely fueled by us having events. And also the relationships that we form with experts in the events field that end up on Events University come from relationships that we form having events. So that was a very purposeful thing that we would do events, and that would fuel our content, and that could make it have a magnifying effect. Yeah, I guess that's enough.
Yep. Talk about product and growth strategies. So what process goes between about feature roadmap, and new customers, new revenue, market acquisition,
Product, yeah. How do you think about product when you're thinking about growth strategy? Yeah, Gabe touches this pretty well in the book. But they have to work together, I think, is the key thing. And the reason they have to work together is because you're building a product for a market. It's what you're doing, right? You're not just building a product. You're building a product for a market. So people have to want what you're making, and in order for you to find out if they want that, you have to try to sell it to them in some fashion, either directly or through some form of marketing. So I think working together in the early going of your traction efforts and your product efforts, is very, very crucial. And the other flavor of that is that I think we also was part of our learnings in the sales process, as we did a couple different iterations of a sales team at Ticketleap over the years, was the concept of segmentation. You've absolutely got to segment your market so that you know who you're building a product for, and you can then market to it. So it's a segment in the definition that I like to use is out of the book called Crossing the Chasm. Jeffrey Moore wrote that book. It's a good book. Anyway, it defines a segment as a self-referential group of customers, basically. So for us, it's tempting to think about verticals, ticketing verticals, like theater and sports, as segments. Those are not segments, it turns out. They don't self-reference each other. If you have a New Year's Eve, if you're a bar and you're having a New Year's Eve party, the chances that you talk to the bar next door to reference in the buying decision of a ticketing platform is pretty low. But in some segments, like haunted attractions, for example, which is a big segment for us, they very much do self-reference each other. So it's making sure you have a segment that you can market to, and you can only market to them if they're self-referencing. And then once you're in the mindset of that segment and you get some customer personas from that segment, then then you can build a product for them and talk to them about what they would want.
Can you talk about the stickiness of traction from when somebody's interacting with you? Say where they're going to another event and how effective in terms of them returning to the site later if they have their own event, or if they do have their own event, if they're just buying a ticket.
Yeah, so how many buyers become sellers, kind of? How many ticket buyers eventually throw events? We did look at this. It's a low number. So although it has inherent virality, as I mentioned before, the coefficient is well below 1. So this is not a self-sustaining channel that's going to take us to the moon, but it does provide 20 handfuls a month. So it's less than 1% of ticket buyers will eventually throw an event on Ticketleap, at least. Yeah, and we can track that pretty easily by the email address. We do it. We don't have anything set up to automatically track it. We just do it in Excel after the fact. So I think that was the last question. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. We hope you enjoyed this program. For more information on Founder Factory and the Philly Startup Leaders, visit phillystartupleaders.org. We produce this program in the studios of the Lubetkin Media Companies in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, on the web at beingthemedia.com. For everyone at Philly Startup Leaders and the Lubetkin Media Companies, this is Steve Lubetkin. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the net. Take good care.